Tutorials in games aren't usually something that stick out to players. After all, most players only spend a fraction of their playtime within a game in the tutorial, if they even decide to pay attention at all. That's not to say that a tutorial is easy to make. Questions need to be considered, like, should my tutorial be short, or should I make it longer? Do I just have a bunch of pop-up prompts with text as the tutorial, or should there be a dedicated in-game section? How much information do I put in the tutorial, and how much do I let the player discover for themselves? Tunic's answers to these questions is pretty unique. In Tunic, the tutorial lasts the entire game. Starting the game on an island beach, Tunic explicitly tells you almost nothing about the world, its mechanics, or even your controls. There are 0 tutorial notifications. Yet even without these pop-ups, up until the last moments of the game, Tunic is constantly teaching you new ways to interact with the world, and it frames all this using the in-game instruction manual. The unique thing about this manual is that it's incomplete. You have to find the pages yourself. So as you progress through the game and find more and more pages to the instruction manual, you are also expanding your knowledge on the game's world and its mechanics. This instruction manual is brilliant. When you break it down, there's very little difference in finding this manual page on how to roll versus just getting a pop-up in-game saying, press A to roll. But what makes Tunic's example stand out is the presentation. The game never really directly tells you how to roll, you have to look at the pictures and figure out the message yourself. Sure, it's not like this picture takes any effort to decipher, and if you were just pressing buttons at the start of the game, you probably should have figured that out already. But that's just a microcosm of how Tunic wants you to play. The game wants you to try stuff and see what happens. The game wants you to read the manual and observe your surroundings closely, using visuals and context clues to decipher the secrets hiding behind them. As a result, it's almost like learning things in Tunic is twice as satisfying as learning anything in other games, because you get this eureka moment from deciphering a manual page, and then later another eureka when you apply what you learned in the overworld. Outside of my praises of how the manual functions as a guide through the game, it's also just lovely to look at, invoking memories of long ago when games still had instruction manuals. Tunic aesthetically and mechanically wears its old Legend of Zelda inspirations proudly, and does a great job of capturing the atmosphere of playing these sorts of old adventure games in an era without the internet, where every secret felt like a special discovery only you knew about. So it's great that the design of the manual looks like something you'd find from games of that era too, containing plenty of art, lore, and even memo pages at the back, in addition to the entries on standard controls. Reading through the manual in Tunic reminded me of the time spent sitting in the back of my mom's car, excitedly reading through the manual of a new game, eagerly waiting to find out what happens next. Well. Okay.